Hello, my name's Kingsley Singleton and welcome to this video lesson from Digital Photo, the UK's best-selling photography and imaging magazine. In this tutorial, we're going to look at how to construct a panoramic image from 4 separate photos using the photo merge command that's found in both Photoshop and Elements. We'll be using this command to stitch the 4 pictures together and then employing some simple tricks to improve the result. So first we'll just close down our finished image. And then, to activate the Photo Merge command, we'll come up to File, down to New, and pick Photo Merge Panorama. In the full version of Photoshop, the route you take to the command is a little bit different. Just go to File, down to Automate, but once you've given it a click, you'll get the same dialog box as this, where we need to select the images we're going to stitch together. To do this, hit Browse, and then select the pictures you want to use. In this case, we're using Pan 01 through to Pan 04. Click Open, then hit OK in the dialog box, and the computer will start the photo merge process. As you can see, it's just running through the various files here before we emerge in the full photo merge window. Now, as you can see, we've got an error message come up saying that photo merge couldn't automatically arrange the images. Just click OK when that happens, because we'll be taking a slightly more manual route anyway. I'm just going to need to drag this window in a little so it fits on the screen. There we go. Now, taking a look at the photo merge interface, you can see that it's pretty similar to other windows that appear in Photoshop or Elements, so nothing to be too scared of in here. We've got some tools on the left hand side here, starting with the Select Image tool, which is used to drag the images around on the pasteboard down here. Underneath that, we've got the Rotate Image tool, which allows you to spin the shots around. Underneath that, there's the Set Vanishing Point tool, which we'll come on to a little bit later. And then, just like in the toolbox in Photoshop, we've got the Zoom tool and the Hand tool, which here is called the Move View tool for some reason, but it does the same thing. Up at the top here, we've got a little bin of the images we're using, and due to that error message coming up, we've got a couple still left in there that Photoshop hasn't automatically tried to blend together on the pasteboard down here. And then on the right hand side of the screen, we've got our navigator, which we can use to zoom in and out of the panorama we're making just by clicking and dragging on the little slider there. And under that, we've got some more settings controlling how the panoramic image will be made, which we'll come on to a little bit later. So the first thing we need to do really is we need to drag these 2 images onto our pasteboard, and this is very simple. We'll just click on them and drag them down the screen so that we can see them. Just going to zoom out a little bit so we get a good view of what's going on, perhaps not quite that far, and we can lay out the images separately to one another so that we can see what we've got to work with. Now, of course, here we have 4 separate images and they were all taken from the same position. But what you'll see is they also overlap slightly, and this is going to give the Photo Merge software something to work with. We'll have to make some manual adjustments ourselves, but getting the pictures to overlap by sort of between 20 and 30% or so when you shoot them will give you the best chance of success if you're going to take this automatic route to making a panoramic. So to start stitching the images together, we just need to make sure that the Select Image tool is highlighted, and then we can just click in one of the images and drag it over another. Now, what you'll see immediately is that as I click and drag, the opacity of the image that I'm moving has dropped, at least where it's overlapping the other shot, and what this does is it allows us to drag it to a point where we're getting some of the elements locking together. When I release the mouse button, Photoshop or Elements will take its best guess at how to blend those 2 pictures together. And what it's doing is it's basing its calculations on looking for similar patterns in the pixels. So the more similar the patterns, the easier the blend is going to be. And we can help Photoshop by rotating this image slightly. I'm just going to zoom in a touch so that we get a closer look at it. What you can see here is that though some parts of it have lined up nicely, other parts, like these branches, don't look so good. We're getting a kind of a ghosting effect in there. And the reason for this is that if you look at the 2 images, there's just a little bit of a difference in the angle at which they were taken. So what we need to do is click on the Rotate Image tool to select that, and then just bring it around a little bit. And as soon as I release the mouse button, you'll see that we get a much better blend. We're just helping Photoshop out a little bit there and making it easier to combine the two photos. Now let's drag across a little bit so that we can sort the middle of the image. Once again, highlight the select image tool, and then again we'll drag our picture on top of our other one so it overlaps, and then let Photoshop have a guess at how it's going to come out. That one's looking pretty good actually. We don't have any kind of visible ghosting in there, so we can pretty much leave that be. We'll just zoom out a touch, just holding down the Alt key to get the minus sign in the zoom tool there so that we zoom outwards. And finally we'll drag the last part of the landscape over to meet the rest of the composition. Again, I'm just using that tree there right in the middle to try and line the two up, but once again you can see that it hasn't gone in sort of quite right. We've got a little bit of a shadow there, so it looks like, again, just by clicking and dragging, we've got a slight mismatch in the angle of these two pictures. So we'll zoom out a touch, and then, just like we did before, use the rotate tool, and if we match it up so that that hillside is a little bit more in register, and then click and drag it back into place, yes, that's looking much better. So what we can do now is just come back out to a slightly wider view again, and our panoramic is looking pretty good really. So let's just have a quick look at these options on the right hand side here, which can help us a little bit further. The first of these, perspective, can often be very handy at sorting out some of those discrepancies that we noticed earlier, some of that ghosting effect. Often just by clicking onto perspective, it'll sort those little areas out, and in fact it looks like it's improved the results that we already had there. And also, just by distorting the far right and far left elements of the picture a little more, it's given us more of a realistic look. Once you've ticked on perspective, you can then employ the vanishing point tool. Give that a click, and then click on the image, and you'll see that the perspective changes. So if you want to adjust the amount of distortion, you can do it like this. And I think we'll set our vanishing point just kind of over here to the left hand side of the picture a little, because it's kind of making the most of those trees. The final two options down here, cylindrical mapping and advanced blending, are both designed to help marry up the separate images a little better. And if I click on the first of them, cylindrical mapping, and then press preview, you'll see what I mean. Sometimes this is helpful and sometimes it isn't. It really depends on the individual images you're using. In this case, I think that the image is getting on probably a little better without using the cylindrical mapping. And in the case of advanced blending, if I click that and then press preview again, what you'll notice is it's actually trying to help us out with some of these lines that are in the sky. The lines that have appeared because the exposure values were slightly different between the shots. Exit preview and you'll see the lines are a little bit more defined. Advanced blending really kind of does the same job as the clone tool and the healing brush, and it's just designed to clean up the results of your panoramic stitching and make the final image look a little bit more natural. But I think that's working pretty well as it is without any extra help from Photoshop, so I'm just going to click OK, and that's going to return us to the editing window within Elements. It may take a little while to render the panorama depending on the speed of your computer, but eventually something like this will appear. As you can see, all of our separate pictures have been stitched together nicely without any of that nasty ghosting that we saw earlier. But the perspective setting that we applied during the photo merge process has given us a little bit of a problem, because in marrying up the component parts, it's actually created this slightly distorted image. No matter though, all we need to do is click on the crop tool and then click and drag it out over the areas of the picture that we want to keep. Just making sure that none of those checkered areas are left visible while we take in all of the image that we can. And then when you're happy that you've done that, either click the tick or double click inside the bounding box. And yes, that's looking much healthier now. So we can get on with making a few more minor adjustments, just cleaning up the results, and the first of those we're going to look at is this sky. As you can see, we've got some little lines running across it, which are the results of the slightly different exposures that we used. But instead of using the clone tool or the healing brush, I'm actually going to introduce a whole new sky here, which should cover up these little aberrations nicely. So just come up to File, down to Open, and pick the file called New Sky. Click Open once again, and now we just want to cut and paste this new sky into our panorama. So just come up to Select, and down to Select All, and then over to Edit, and down to Copy. Give that a click, and the sky will be recorded into the computer's memory. So you can close it down now, and then back on the photo merged image, click Edit once again, and down to Paste. And there's our new sky. Now we need to move it into position, so first let's just bring up the Layers palette, which you can do by coming up to Window and down to Layers. I'll just drag mine in from the side of the screen here. And then using the Move tool, we'll just click on the layer and move it up to the top of the image, round about there. Should be okay. And then to blend it in with our panoramic landscape, just come over to where it says Normal, give that a click, and choose the option called Overlay from the list. As you can see, that's dropped in quite nicely now, but we've still got a bit of a hard join between the sky and the landscape, and if we look very closely, we can just about still see that line that was in the sky along with this vapor trail up here in the top left. So though the sky is looking okay, we just need to blend its edge in a little using the eraser tool. And it looks like mine's gone walkabout a little bit in the toolbox here, but it should be hiding under the background eraser tool. Yes, there it is. Just give that a click, and then we'll set the opacity to 100%, use a nice large soft edge brush, and just work along that hard edge until we've got something that looks quite natural. That's looking pretty good, but we do still need to deal with this vapor trail, so we'll just click back onto the photo merge layer, that's the background layer, then select the healing brush tool just by clicking on that icon there, holding the mouse button down and selecting it from the list, and we'll increase the size of the healing brush there to about 60 pixels, bring its hardness down to about 50%, make sure that Sample All Layers is unticked, and then holding the Alt key down on the keyboard, we'll just select a clean area of sky, and then paint that offending vapor trail away. You might just apply it to that hard edge there as well, which I think we can probably still see, yeah, just creeping through there, through the layer. So we'll increase the brush size this time to about 100 pixels or so. No, actually, let's make it 150 pixels. And then once again we'll Alt-click on the sky to sample a clean layer and paint over that offending line. And there you can see that it's disappeared nicely. Okay, so that's our panoramic landscape nearly complete. All I'm going to do now is just flatten the image into one background layer just by coming up to Layer, down to Flatten Image, and then I'm just going to make some minor levels adjustments to the shot, just darkening the sky off a little and making the foreground a little bit more contrasty. So just click on the rectangular marquee tool, drag it out over the sky there, come up to Select and down to Feather, use a feather radius of 200 pixels, click OK, and then to make our levels adjustment we'll come up to Enhance, down to Adjust Lighting and pick Levels. And what I'm going to do here is just slide this gamma slider over to the right just a little bit, just darkening the sky. Click OK, then come up to Select and down to Deselect to get rid of those marching ants. And then I'm going to make a similar selection of the foreground, just clicking and dragging out that rectangular marquee. Again, back up to Select, down to Feather, once again using a radius of 200 pixels, and then again Enhance, Lighting, Levels, and this time we're going to drag the white point slider in just a touch, the black point slider over to the right a little as well, and the middle slider once again to the right. That's just going to make our foreground a little bit more contrasty. Click OK, select and deselect to get rid of our marching ants, and there is our completed panoramic landscape. And as you can see, it's really easy to do using Photo Merge, and it gives you these wonderfully detailed landscape images. So give it a try with the example pics, But make sure you get out there and try constructing a few panoramic shots of your own. See you next time.